But man, it is just, and I tried to speak a little bit to it this morning, but it's an important time, especially senior camp, and so hopefully we can get as many people as possible to go. And so if you are going, And you know somebody that might be on the fence, just talk to them and encourage them. Encourage them to go. And then Lord's Supper service. Now, I'm going to say this like every time we get together because it's different. And people are going to go, when is it? It's regular time for an evening service in the weekday, which is 7 p.m., but it's on a Tuesday, all right? Which then also means we're not meeting the next day on Wednesday. So change, right? So make sure it's in your calendar. The calendar in your phone has a wonderful feature where you can have a reminder and it pops up and it tells you, right, in case you forget. So do that because if you're like me, if it's not in the phone, it doesn't exist. Emerald City Baptist Church outreach for 27th and the 18th. And again, that if nothing else, you may hate outreach. You may hate walking. I don't know. You may hate West Seattle. I'm not sure. But let's go, if nothing else, to be an encouragement to Brother AJ. If nothing else. Yeah, it's hard to start a church. And I'm telling you, we were blessed to have the Buckeyes and the Farinellas and my family, right, in starting this church effectively. Brother AJ's doing it by himself. And other people are coming, right, which is a blessing from other churches, but he doesn't have a core. And so let's be as much of an encouragement as possible. And again, if you've heard what God's doing there, very, very exciting. So I want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of where God's blessing. It's just like, hey, if God's in that, I kind of want to be in that too. And that's maybe selfish on my part, but hey, I certainly want to be a help where I can, and hopefully you feel that way too. And so let's go ahead. And we're just going to open up the service in a word of prayer, and we're going to talk about our memory verses, and then we'll keep going. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you so much just for the opportunity to get together, Lord, regardless of how many people are here. And as you said, where 2 or 3 are gathered, and that is directly in the context of church, Lord. In fact, it's in the midst of a church discipline conversation that you're having there in the book of Matthew. But Lord, I thank you for that. I thank you for that truth. I thank you that you're not just in the big mega churches, Lord, that you are here as well. And I pray that, Lord, we would still honor you and give you our best in our listening and in the preaching and in the teaching, Lord, because you're worth it. You're worth it. And the fact that you allow us to come and to hear from you and to be in your presence and to worship and adore you, to know you, is astounding, Lord. And I'm so grateful for it. I pray that you would be blessed through us tonight. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. All right, so what verse did we work on for this week? Romans 10:13, which is right after Romans 10:9 and 10. Amen. All right, so who can say Romans 10:13? I saw Larry, Brother Larry. Amen. That is such a good verse. There are so many people today, especially. I'm not preaching tonight, so I have to get the preaching in. But there's so many people today that will try and take the clear teaching of the Word of God, right? For whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. That's like slam dunk simple. Goes, no, but it's actually not that simple because, Christ didn't die for everybody, only a subset. No, how can you look at the Word of God and come to that conclusion? No, for whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. Romans 10:13. Amen. Anybody else want to say that? Christelle. Amen. Amen. For whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. Johnny, do you want to go through Romans 10:9 and 10? Since that's... Sure. Amen.
That thou shalt confess with thy mouth the Lord Jesus, and believe in thine heart that God hath raised him from the dead, thou shalt be saved. For with the heart man believeth unto righteousness, and with the mouth confession is made unto salvation.
Amen. Amen. All right. Good job. I love it. So, okay, kids... So like Mia and Viv, so no, I'm not going to ask you. But so you know how you guys have to do verses like every month at school? Isn't it cool to hear your daddy, right, where he memorized verses too? It's not just you guys, right? It's good for everybody. Yeah, Viv's not so sure. She's like, I'm not sure. But it's good. Even your dad does it. Amen. It'd be a shame if we said, oh, that's good, and we should have our kids do it. But then we don't actually do the same thing, right? Amen. Amen. Here's what I'm going to do, because we don't have a lot of people here tonight, and because it still felt like last week people were kind of catching up on Romans 10, 9, and 10. And 10:13 is pretty easy. But I'm going to give us another bye week so here, oh, I'm sorry. But here's what we ought to do, right? Here's what we ought to do. We ought to go through and practice all of the verses, right, in succession. Because the point, again, is not that we would know random verses, right? That's not at all the point. The point is that we would be able to have a clear picture in our mind of Scripture and be able to walk someone through, right, their eternal state, right? The fact that they're going to be judged, the fact that they've sinned because they broke God's law, the fact that everybody is a sinner, right? You go through all the verses that we've studied, and the fact that without any intervention from God, we are stuck. We are stuck, right? But God commendeth his love, right? And it's like so good. And so and then taking them on that journey of what Christ did for us, right? For the wages of sin is death, but the gift of God is eternal life through Jesus Christ our Lord. And hopefully we pray that they would see that, and that their eyes would be open, and that they would see that truly as a gift from God and receive that. And then finally, right, for whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. And that is the clarification. We'll get into just assurance of salvation in some verses next week, I believe. But anybody else feel compelled to again, we're not showing off. We're just, it's nice practice when you're in front of church family. Because let's be real. When you recite verses from memory and it's in front of people, it's harder than just like when you're driving your car or on the school bus or whatever, right? Anybody else want to take a stab? Miss Kitty. Amen. Romans 10:13. That's so good. So good. Amen. Anna. Amen. Good job. Good job. I love that. That is so good. Be in prayer for Avery as well. Heard back from Keith, and Miss Katie had to work today, and Avery's sick, so he had to stay and take care of the kids. So, the sickness is not so good, but let's do that. So if we want to just maybe Lucas, you're not on sound. We're going to take an offering. Could you usher for us, please? All right. Amen. And man, I'm still excited about our missions commitments. Amen. I mean, that is fantastic. Very, very excited to see how we can be a blessing. Yeah, Brother Larry. I haven't talked to the Mislins yet. So I'm hoping to do that this week. And he is like, well, I should say they are like machines. They are just cranking out meetings like crazy. So I'm hoping to be able to Skype with them, but yeah, so I'm excited, and they're gonna be in Manila before we know it, because he's serious. Like he's not wasting any time. The thrill of Manila. So excited for that, and and just excited again, where when you see somebody that you just know is going to do something awesome for God, to be able to get behind them and be a part of what's happening, is just super exciting. So let's go ahead and pray for the offering and give it to God. Dear Heavenly Father, Lord, thank you so much. Pray, Lord, that you would, Lord, although I love to see growth and the numeric giving and things of that nature, Lord, I pray that you would be pleased with our hearts. Lord, I pray that that when you look at us, that truly our desire is for you, and that is reflected in our giving, Lord, that we wouldn't be puffed up in that or anything else, but Lord, that we would be growing in our desire to honor you, to be used of you, Lord, and to see your will be done on earth as it is in heaven, Lord, as we studied on Wednesday night. Lord, we pray that you accept this offering. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
All right, let's all stand. Song number 283, Jesus, I Come. Out of my bondage, sorrow. We are thinking of a different song. Hold on. What song do you got? That sounds like a better song. What song number is that? Oh, you had it reversed. Oh, say it. One page over. All right. Jesus, I come.
We were doing a good job.
We were doing a good job. I was so confused.
I mean, but we almost had it for an entire line.
All right. That sounds like it matches. Okay. Out of my bondage, sorrow, and night, Jesus, I come, Jesus, I come, into thy freedom, gladness, and light. Jesus, I come to thee. Out of my sin and sin to thy health, out of my sin and into thy health, out of my sin and into thyself, Jesus, I come to thee. Out of my shameful failure and loss, Jesus, I come, Jesus, I come, into the glorious gain of thy cross, Jesus, I come to thee. Out of earth's sorrow into thy balm, out of life's storms and into thy calm, out of distress to jubilant psalm, Jesus, I come to thee. Out of unrest and arrogant pride, Jesus, I come, Jesus, I come, into thy blessed will to like a dove. Jesus, I come to thee. Out of the fear and dread of the tomb, Jesus, I come. Jesus, I come into the joy and light of thy throne. Jesus, I come to thee. Out of the depths of ruin untold, into the peace of thy sheltering fold, ever thy glorious face to behold. Jesus, I come to thee. Great singing. You may be seated. Or one more? One more. Just one page over. Song number 284. Now I Belong to Jesus. We got a preview of it already. Jesus, my Lord, will love me forever. From him no power of evil can sever. He gave his life to ransom my soul. Now I belong to him. Now I belong to Jesus. Jesus belongs to me. Not for the years of time alone, but for eternity. Once I was lost in sin's degradation. Jesus came down to bring me salvation, lifted me up from sorrow and shame. Now I belong to him. Now I belong to Jesus. Jesus belongs to me. Not for the years of time alone, but for eternity. Joy floods my soul, for Jesus has saved me, freed me from sin that long had enslaved me. His precious blood he came to redeem. Now I belong to him. Now I belong to Jesus. Jesus belongs to me. Not for the years of time alone, but for eternity. Great singing. You may be seated.
Amen. All right, that's good. You know, there are some great things about being a small church plant and just kind of being a family here together, that you can laugh at yourself, kind of like, you know, good family can laugh at themselves, right? And when things you know, aren't exactly perfect, and that's okay, and I'm just thankful for that. So we're going to have the teens dismissed, and I love the title for this lesson: A Lesson Even a Dog Can Learn. A lesson even a dog can learn. All right. So if dogs can learn it, certainly teens can learn it. But Brother Nick, why don't you come and preach? And you guys get that. So we're going to have a dog lesson, but you guys get
Well, it sounds a lot worse when you say it like that. I was laughing because for the first little bit of that song where everybody had to keep looking to the back, the first two just went straight over my head, and I'm like, who's coming in? I kept turning around, looking to see who was coming in, not realizing that you were all looking at the back screen. So that went over my head. So, all right, if you kids remember, now there's only a few of you in here tonight, but if you remember, I said this week we're going to have review questions, and I've got 15 for a total of 30 possible points. And Miss Aaliyah has her notebook handy, ready to take down the points. So if you answer the questions correctly, some of them are a little bit harder. Some of them, I'm even going to let you open your Bible because I realize how hard they are as a question. But regardless, it will be 2 points a question. And if the adults answer them, I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do if the adults answer the questions. But we're going to do something. I'm going to put it towards something. I just don't know what yet. So, starting off in question number 1, found in Judges chapter 3. Name one nation that was left to test Israel. There's quite a few, so name just one that was left to test Israel. Anybody? Who remembers who the big giant was? What? Evie. Yes, Evie got it. One of the Philistines was one of the nations. Put Evie down for 2 points. Man, she's on the board. First one on the board is Evie. Look at that. You got to be quick on the hand raising. We are going to do open Bible tonight because there's so few, and some of them are harder. Yes, so open Bible. So open your Bibles to Judges 3. Right now we're in 3, but we'll go from there. So the first one was name one nation left to test Israel. And there was a whole bunch in there. There was, namely, the 5 lords of the Philistines, all the Canaanites, the Sidonians, Hivites that dwelt in Mount Lebanon, from Baal Hermon to all those. So those were possible answers. Question number 2. Try and do it without looking at your Bible. Name the first judge. You can look at it. Evie's got her hand up again. She's ready to go. Does anyone know the first judge? Abby? No. No, the first judge in the book of Judges. Anybody else? We got it? Adults, you're good to go? Oh. Othniel. Good job. Okay, Othniel was the first judge. I'm sorry, Brother Larry. I now have it on. So there we go. I've been using this the whole time. I'm sorry. I have the mic on. Okay. So, who was the first judge? Othniel. Whoa. My voice came out of nowhere. Who was the first judge's father-in-law? It's a little bit harder. Tony. No. Good try, though. That was a very good try. I will give you that. That was a good try. Anybody? I see my wife's hand. Caleb. Caleb was the father-in-law of Othniel. All right, now here's one that's a little bit harder. It's a fun one, though. Name the fat king. Wow, that was fast. Eglon. Very good. Abby got that one. Eglon. Okay, so with that, this goes with that one. I'm going to ask Abby just one question. We'll let the little guys, okay? So we're going to start with everybody over here, okay? Got you on this one. Name the second judge. To give you a hint, his name is found in verse 12. Actually, starting in verse 12, it talks about him. His name is found in verse 15. Sorry. Okay, we're going to go with Abby. Ehud. And she's racking up the points tonight. Ehud. Okay, Ehud was the second judge. So, does anybody, this is for anyone under the age of 9. Anyone under the age of 9 to start with, and then we're going to open it up. Does anyone remember what Ehud's big characteristic was? Does anybody remember what his big characteristic was? The one thing that defined him. It's one major thing that he was. He was very good at using one thing. His left hand! Tony's on the board tonight. All right, his left hand. All right. So, moving on from there, this one's a little bit harder because he's only found in one verse. Who was the third judge? Very hard. This is a harder one. He is found in verse 31 of chapter 3. First one to raise their hand. Abby. Shamgar. Very good. So remember, look at verse 31. I'm going to give you a hint to the next question ahead of time. Look at verse 31. And if you raise your hand before anybody else, be watching there. How he did something specific. How did he deliver the children of Israel? In 31. Yeah. The ox goad. The ox goad. Very good. She was so close. We'll give it to her. The ox goad. That's how he delivered the children of Israel. All right. So moving on to the next one. We're starting in chapter 4 now of Judges. What did the lady Deborah do? Now it's kind of a little bit, there's 3 possible answers there. Abby. A judge. Do you have any other one? Any other part of it? She was also... There we go. That's what I was looking for. She was a prophetess and a judge. Very, very good. Deborah was a prophetess and a judge. So then, along with her, not including her, so you can't say Deborah, with her, who was the 4th judge? So there's 2 people that were the 4th judge. It was Deborah and one other person. Does anyone remember? His name starts with a B. Abby! Barak! Okay, so here's what we're going to do. To make it fair, we're going to do closed Bible for all but the last question for the rest of it for Abby. Okay? She's racking up the points and I love it. I want to give them a chance. Okay, so here we go. Who delivered the nation from Sisera? Now, this is very specific. It's a girl's name. Abby. Ooh, I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to give it to you because it was JL. So JL, that's very close. Jabel and JL are very close, so I'm going to give it to you. JL was the one who delivered the nation from Sisera. How did JL kill Sisera? I'm going to wait 1 second. The biggest hint is wham! Anybody? Oh, Viv. With a stake. Very, very good. Viviana's on the board. That's 2 for Viviana. All right. How did, in that story of Sisera and Jael and Barak and Deborah, how did God give the victory over the chariots? Does anybody remember? That was actually a fun part of the story for me. Evie, do you know? A storm. Very good. I'm actually going to give Abby. Do you want to finish the answer? Very good. Very, very good. I was looking for that, and I was hoping that you were going to give that answer, so we'll give both of them points. So, all right. So this one's a little bit harder, but it's in the same story, and this one can be found in verse 10 of Judges 4. So Judges 4, verse 10. Name one of the 2 tribes that helped Barak. I know it's a little bit harder. Let me see. Anybody got it over there? Just shout out an answer. It's okay. There's no wrong answers here. You don't. I see Viv go, I don't know how to say this. Okay. Just shoot. Just say one. 2 tries. Not David. One of these days it's going to be one of the answers. Yes. Okay, no. Okay. I will allow you to open your Bible. Go for it. Yeah. Okay, so that one, the answer is Zebulun and Naphtali. That's a really hard one. And I knew it would be hard. That's why I was going to say open it up. So Zebulun and Naphtali. You could just shout out the answer. If it's close, I'll know what you're saying. So, here we go. Last question. This is question number 15. Yes, your Bible is open for this one because this one's a hard one. It's found in Judges 5, somewhere between verses 20 and the end of the chapter. There is one name that is only found here in the whole Bible, and it starts with an M. So what is the one name that is named in Judges 5 and is only found in Judges 5? I'm going to make it like a sword drill, so go. Go for it. And even if the adults get it for... Oh, Abby? Meroz. Very good. Meroz. That's the only place in the entire Bible that specific name is found. So that's really cool. Good job on the questions. You guys are doing pretty good. And I'm telling you, if you keep and pay attention... Yes, Tony? You actually got 2 points. You got 2 points because every question was worth 2 points. So that's 2 points added on to your weekly total. But pay attention. Listen, I'm going to try and give out little hints here and there to let you guys know to pay attention a little bit closer because it'll be on a quiz. So just pay attention and it'll get easier. And I'm going to try and do more where it's open Bible for the younger kids just to make it a little bit easier. But with that being said, open up your Bibles tonight. We're going to start into Judges chapter 6. Judges chapter 6. I am excited that we are getting into one of the stories of one of my favorite judges, one of my favorite stories of the Bible. But tonight we are going to read verses 1 through 10. So Judges chapter 6, verses 1 through 10. And the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord delivered them into the hand of Midian 7 years. And the hand of Midian prevailed against Israel, and because of the Midianites, the children of Israel made them the dens which are in the mountains, and caves, and strongholds. And so it was when Israel had sown that the Midianites came up, and the Amalekites, and the children of the east, even they came up against them. And they encamped against them, and destroyed the increase of the earth, till thou come unto Gaza, and left no sustenance for Israel, neither sheep, nor ox, nor ass. For they came up with their cattle and their tents, and they came as grasshoppers for a multitude. For both they and their camels were without number, and they entered into the land to destroy it. And Israel was greatly impoverished because of the Midianites. And the children of Israel cried unto the Lord. And it came to pass, when the children of Israel cried unto the Lord because of the Midianites, that the Lord sent a prophet unto the children of Israel, which said unto them, Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, I brought you up from Egypt, and brought you forth out of the house of bondage. And I delivered you out of the hand of the Egyptians, and out of the hand of all that oppressed you, and drove them out from before you, and gave you their land. And I said unto you, I am the Lord your God. Fear not the God of the Amorites, in whose land ye dwell. But ye have not obeyed my voice. So tonight we're going to get started in Judges chapter 6. And we're going to see a shift that happens here starting in Judges chapter 6. So let's pray and then we'll get into the message tonight. Dear Lord, thank you so much for what you've done throughout this week and just throughout the singing today, Lord. I just think of how awesome it was to sing to you today, Lord. It was just such a blessing to my soul. And Lord, I just pray that tonight you'd be with me and help me to preach only the words you would have me to preach. And Lord, I just pray that you'd be with us tonight and bless us and bless this meeting together tonight. In Jesus' name, amen. So, as we have seen in most of the other accounts in Judges, once again in verse 1 of chapter 6, it says, "And the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord." You know, at this point in time, I'm starting to think this is like completely, it's starting to get ridiculous to the extent that you always have the sermon illustration about the little kid that goes and touches the iron and doesn't touch it again after he learns that it hurts. This is almost like a kid that just keeps going back and touching it over and over again, expecting something different. They just keep going back. They have such a great and big victory, as we just learned in Judges chapter 5, where it says at the end in verse 31, "So let all thine enemies perish," talking about Sisera and all that, "O Lord, but let them that love him be as the sun when he goeth forth in his might, and the land had rest 40 years. They have 40 years of rest, and the last Judges is it's talking about warriors rising up as the sun to fight the Lord's battles, as we talked about last week. But with such a victorious ending, the next verse goes right back to, "And the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord." And so, as has been customary, as they do evil in the sight of the Lord delivers them into the hand of Midian for 7 years. Now, out of all the accounts in Judges where they've been delivered into an enemy, 7 years is actually one of the smaller ones. It's actually one of the smaller ones, which is interesting, and this is one of those details. I'm not going to have the kids remember this, but I want you to keep in mind this 7-year period as we keep going into this story about Gideon, because it's significant to what's going on here, the fact that it's only 7 years. So it says in verse 2, "And the hand of Midian prevailed against Israel, and because of the Midianites, the children of Israel made them dens which are in the mountains and caves and strongholds." So as God is looking at his people, and he sees that once again they go to sinning against him, and from all the other accounts that we've gotten, we know that a lot of this has to do with them either going to serve the gods of the people they're with, or intermingling with them, or basically being just like the world around them, being just like the Canaanites that are dwelling around them, that God told them to push out, to expel from the land. So as we get into this, God decides to bring his judgment on his children in the form of Midian. Now, to fully figure out who Midian is, I want to go back and turn with me just really quick to Genesis chapter 25, verses 1 and 2. Now, it's going to seem like kind of like a detour, but to give you an idea of who Midian is and who the Midianites are, we're going to go back to Genesis chapter 25, verses 1 and 2. So we're speaking of Abraham. This is in the days of Abraham. So Abraham, aside from Sarah his wife, had a bunch of concubines who he would have with him, and he would have children by these people to continue his line. So in chapter 25, verses 1 and 2, then Abraham took a wife, and her name was Keturah, and Keturah bare him Zimram and Jokshan and Medan and Midian and Ishbak and Shua. So this is a extended child of Abraham. This is not within the promised seed, which was Isaac. This was an extended one. And so being an extended family member, being the one that wasn't the child of promise, Midian absolutely hated the Israelites. If you study out any of Abraham's descendants, any of them, almost all of them grew up to utterly hate the Israelites because they were the children of promise. So because of the fact that they were the children of promise, all these other descendants of Abraham and all the other descendants of any of the tribes, all the ones that were like the offshoots of either tribe, they always hated the main tribe of Israel. And so over and over again throughout the Bible, you'll see the Midianites, the Moabites, and many others persecuting the children of Israel. And the main reason they did it was because they hated them, because they were the promised seed, and they were the one that received all the favor, if you would, in Abraham's household. So Midian hated them. When you break down the name Midian, it literally means brawling or contentious. And if you break it down all the way to the root word, the coolest thing that was really cool about it is that part of it was the Dian half of the word Midian. The Dian stood for used to judge. it's such a cool way that the Bible interprets itself, and the different ways that words just break down in the Bible, and the way that you can get such a deeper meaning from every word. But these people that were brawling and contentious in this form, like you go all the way down to the root, and it means used to judge. And God did exactly that. God used them to judge the children of Israel, to bring down his judgment upon them. The Midianites were described by historians and by other people in the land, and even by the Bible, as a people of the desert who were experts at plundering and impoverishing the people they would prey on. What they would do is they would move in. They were known to wander throughout the desert. And the reason why it talks about their tents here is because they were tent dwellers. They didn't have a permanent resting place. They continuously moved throughout the deserts and the desert land, just ravishing people to get their supply. And they were desert dwellers. They were tent dwellers. And so these men were so oppressive to the Israelites in this passage that they ran and hid in caves. They ran along and hid in caves and strongholds to escape the wrath of these Midianites. So as the Midianites are sweeping through the land, they decided after whoever knows, maybe it was just after the 40 years of time the Midianites had had enough and decided to come to the Israelites, or maybe they were journeying on a long journey and then came back to the area. But regardless, they came back specifically to come after the Israelites. This is seen in verses 2 through 5. And the hand of Midian prevailed against Israel, and because of the Midianites, the children of Israel made them dens which are in the mountains, and caves and strongholds. And so it was, when Israel had sown, that the Midianites came up, and the Amalekites and the children of the east, even they came up against them. And they camped against them and destroyed the increase of the earth, till thou come unto Gaza, and left no sustenance for Israel, neither sheep, nor ox, nor ass. For they came up with their cattle and their tents. They came as grasshoppers for a multitude, for both they and their camels were without number. And they entered, this is where we get it, at the end of verse 5, and they entered into the land to destroy it. They came with a purpose. It wasn't that they were it just so happened that they were coming back. Maybe after the 40 years, they decided finally to come after the children of Israel, but they came with a purpose. Their main objective was to completely destroy the land. They hated the Israelites, and this being their promised land, they came to destroy it. So as a result of this, because the Midianites came in to destroy the land and to destroy the increase for the Israelites, they went up into the dens and into the mountains. And kids, pay attention. This is part of it. This is part of one of those questions you might see in the future. When the Midianites came to destroy the land, the Israelites went up and hid in dens, caves, in the mountains. In dens and caves in the mountains. Remember that. Caves or dens. They went up into the mountain and they hid in these dens or caves. And what they would do is, it was actually really cool to see why they did it, is they, in fleeing from the Midianites, they went into these caves because, as you know, most caves have a mouth. One mouth, one entrance. And any person who knew anything about any kind of military strategy knows if you've got a bottleneck spot where you got to come in, that's a bad place to try and invade a place. So what the Israelites would do is they'd heavily fortify the mouth of these caves so that they could sit in safety within these caves and not be able to be attacked by the Midianites. Well, staying inside a cave, kids, here's a question. This is a freebie. This isn't for points. Can you grow vegetables inside of a cave? What do you think, Tony? No, you can't grow a cave. What's one of the reasons why you can't grow vegetables in a cave? Viv? It's all stone. You can't break stone. What's another reason? You think it might have been a little bit dark, a little bit shaded because it was, yeah, Mia? No sun. Very good, because there was no sun. And so because of that, what the Israelites would have to do is they'd have to venture outside of their caves, outside of their strongholds, and they'd go out to the dirt, and they'd go out to the land, and they'd sow their crops, and they'd build up their crops, and they'd grow them, and they'd grow many different types of crops. And what would happen is as they'd venture out to do that, they'd have to leave the safety of their cave, right? In order to go out there and make their crops, they'd have to leave the safety of their cave. And what do animals need to survive? What do we need to survive? Tony. Food. Very simply, food. Now, do you think those cows were grazing inside the cave? You think they had a lot of substance in the cave? You think the sheep and the ox and all their other animals that they had were able to graze inside the cave? No, of course not. So whenever they'd have to feed their cattle, or whenever they'd have to go out to sow their crops, they'd have to go outside of the safety of the cave. And because of this, what the Midianites would do is they would wait until they saw them out with their cattle. They would wait until they saw them out with their crops, trying to sow that. And they would come through and they'd do one of a couple things. They'd either kill everybody they saw, including the cows and the sheep and everything, or they would simply come through, and if nobody was out there and they just saw freshly planted crops, they'd take all their stuff and go all over it and trample it just to absolutely destroy the crop. And if you know anything about planting seeds, they're very sensitive, and you can't walk over them. Once you plant them, you got to leave them there until they get rooted. And what they would do is they'd trample their crops. They would go through, and if the crops had already sprung up over a period of time, they'd go through and burn them. They'd cut them down. They'd trample their crops. They'd do all these things, and they were greatly, as it says, greatly oppressed, greatly impoverished because of the people of Midian. So they'd come in, and they'd either trample them, or the other thing that they would do is they would simply just steal all their crops. And so what would you think would be one of the purposes why they would steal all of their food? So it says, to give you an idea of that, let's go to verse number 4. It's talking about the Midianites. And they encamped against them and destroyed the increase of the earth till thou come unto Gaza and left no sustenance. This was a siege, is what they would call it. A siege. They would come to the mouth of the cave, and anything that they had for food, they would destroy it. And they would keep them in these caves, literally to cause them to sit in the caves till they would die. They would siege the children of Israel at this time, force them into these caves where they couldn't grow anything. They'd kill all their livestock so they had no food, and the children of Israel would literally just sit in their caves that they had made, and they would be wasting away little bit by little bit. So the children of Midian, they come in, and the Midianites, it says in verse 5 that they came up with their cattle and their tents, and they came as grasshoppers for a multitude. So there were so many that it was like grasshoppers. One of my favorite stories to tell and one of my favorite sermon illustrations is about grasshoppers. And it sounds weird, but one time our church back home in Chicago, we went to a preacher's meeting in Texas. It was one of the big national meetings, and it was in a convention center. And what happened was the week before this preaching meeting happened, they had a flower show. And what happened at the flower show was the entire convention center was infested because somebody brought in a whole infestation of grasshoppers. And so in the middle of this preaching conference, we were sitting watching preachers, and you'd have a grasshopper just hop out of nowhere and just land on your lap. You had people the whole entire meeting jumping because there's grasshoppers everywhere. But the idea there was literally so many that you'd be walking through the convention center, and it was like crunchy all the time. You'd constantly be stepping on them. You'd constantly be seeing these grasshoppers jumping all over the place. It was infested. They were everywhere. There was tons and tons of them. And when you think about bugs, when there's an infestation of bugs, there's tons and tons of them. And so when it's comparing them to this here, it was as if you're standing on a cliff, and we'll find out about someone standing on a cliff looking down at Midian. But when you're standing on a cliff looking down at them, it looks like a bunch of bugs all over the place. There's so many of them. You can just see them moving constantly. It's like the ground is moving because there's so many of them. You see them constantly moving, and it's comparing them to grasshoppers, that there's tons of them for a multitude. For not just them, not just because of them, but them and their camels were without numbered, and they entered into the land to destroy it. So Midian came with one purpose and one purpose only, They came to occupy the land and to completely destroy it because they hated Israel. So, as customary, in the book of Judges, we see the response from Israel in verse 6. And Israel was greatly impoverished because of the Midianites. And the children of Israel cried unto the Lord. So once again, as always, they sinned before the Lord. But one thing I want you to notice is it took them, this time, it took them being greatly impoverished for them to call out to the Lord. Because you'll notice, they didn't call out to the Lord when they had to hide in the caves. They didn't call out to the Lord then. It wasn't until they were greatly impoverished because of this that they called out to the Lord. It wasn't initially when the first confrontation with the Midianites came. They didn't run to the Lord and say, Lord, we're sorry, we repent. No, they tried to do it on their own. They went into their caves, what they knew was safety. They went into their own man-made fortifications to protect them rather than calling on God to protect them. And as a result, it takes all the way up until they're greatly impoverished. Now, kids, I know that's a bigger word, impoverished. Do you know what that means? It means it's basically like people that are like, it would give the idea of a homeless person where they don't have any food. They really don't have any possessions. They're living in caves. They have no food. They're sickly. They're weak because they don't have any way of getting food. They're greatly impoverished. They have no way of getting any food or anything. So because of this, because they're greatly impoverished, they finally call upon the Lord. And this time, we see God has a little bit of a different response than He has sent in the past. Instead of sending in the past, He either sent a judge or right away He sent Deborah to prod the judge into action. But we see something different from God in this passage. In verse number 7. And it came to pass, when the children of Israel cried unto the Lord because of the Midianites, that the Lord sent a prophet unto the children of Israel. So God sends them a prophet. An interesting fact, this is the second prophet in the whole book of Judges and the last prophet in the whole book of Judges. And Deborah was the first prophet. She was the only female, making this the only male. The only way that we can find out that he was a male is by the use of the verb used for the word prophet. It's in the masculine form, whereas when it describes Deborah, it's in the feminine form of a prophetess. So that's the only way we know it's a man. It doesn't give his name, and this unnamed prophet is called upon by God to give one very specific message. And that message starts midway through verse 8. Thus saith the Lord God of Israel, I brought you up from Egypt, and I brought you forth out of the house of bondage. So what is he talking about there? He's talking about when he led the children of Israel out of Egypt, and they had that great victory over Pharaoh. As we've been learning throughout the whole book of Judges, they're constantly called back to remembrance. They're constantly called back to remember what God had done for them in the past. And God decides here, and it seems as if God is addressing them in a way, have you forgotten what I've done? I've told you over and over again, and you rehearse it with all these songs and all these other things, but I've told you over and over again, I am the Lord God of Israel. I'm the one that brought you out of Egypt. I'm the one that did that. I'm the one that brought you forth out of the house of bondage. The same God is the same God that delivered them from the hands of Pharaoh, that buried the Egyptian chariots in the Red Sea. The same God that brought them across the Red Sea on dry land. The same God that did all these great things. He's addressing them saying, I'm the same God I was then, and I'm here to address you once again. I brought you forth out of the house of bondage, and I delivered you out of the hands of the Egyptians and out of the hand of all that oppressed you. So as we're thinking of the book of Judges specifically, we think of when Othniel judged and he delivered the children of Israel out of the hands of Cushan Rishathaim. I still can't say it. I've said it like 20 times and I still can't say it right. But we think of Othniel when he delivers them out of the hands of the evil king. And then you have Ehud is able to deliver them out of the hands of King Eglon, the fat king. You have him. You have Shamgar, who with just an ox goad delivers them from the Philistines. God's saying to them, I'm the same God that has delivered you in recent history. This isn't just the same God that delivered you from Egypt anymore. He's saying this is the second time in Judges that God addresses them. And the first time was back in chapter 2, when he told them that they had sinned in not taking the land. But he's saying to them, the same God that delivered you from the Egyptians is the same God that just recently delivered you 40 years ago from chariots again with Sisera. I'm the same God that delivered you out of the hand of all that oppressed you and drove them out from before you and gave you their land. I'm the same God that gave you the land to begin with. And so in verse 10, God says, and I said unto you, I am the Lord your God. Fear not the gods of the Amorites, in whose land ye dwell, but ye have not obeyed my voice. Just as a refresher, turn back with me to Judges chapter 2. Right at the beginning of Judges chapter 2, verse 1, when the angel of the Lord comes to them from Gilgal to Bochim. In verse 1, the angel of the Lord came up from Gilgal to Bochim and said, I made you to go up out of Egypt, and I have brought you unto the land which I swear unto your fathers. And I said, I will never break my covenant with you. And ye shall make no league with the inhabitants of this land, and ye shall throw down their altars. But ye have not obeyed my voice. Why have ye done this? So we see a second time. God uses almost the same exact wording with them even. He says there in chapter 6 again, and I said unto you. He's reminding them of what he said in chapter 2. And I said unto you, I am the Lord your God. Fear not the God of the Amorites. And the idea there is that they were fearing the God of the Amorites in that two ways. In that they were either fearing what the God of the Amorites could do, which was sinful and wicked, because they served the only most powerful God, the only God that needs to be served, or they were fearing the God of the Amorites in the sense that they were actually worshiping him and fearing the God of the Amorites the way that they were supposed to be fearing God himself. So he's saying, fear not the gods of the Amorites in whose land ye dwell. But he says very simply, ye have not obeyed my voice. You didn't listen. You didn't do what I told you to do. So once again, as we keep seeing over and over in the book of Judges, God gives them a clear command. And it seems that God has brought this into verse 10 to remind them, I told you. I told you what to do. I told you not to fear the God of the Amorites in whose land you dwell. So in a sense, God's saying, you're crying out to me, but this isn't my fault. You're crying out to me in a sense that this is somehow my fault, but I'm the God that brought you out of Egypt. I'm the God that brought you out of bondage to all these different nations. I'm the one that brought you out of the oppression. Don't point your finger at me. And the cool thing that I found in this passage is that there's what they call a chiasm in this passage. And what a chiasm does is it basically centers in on one point and then comes back out to the same exact point. So it starts at a point, comes to the middle, and comes right back out to the same point it started on. So the point that we see here is that as they cry out, the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord. They did wicked before the Lord. So that's the first point. You start off there. And they were sold into the hand of the Midianites, and the Midianites prevailed against Israel. And there was oppression. There's a historical account there of their oppression. So then after the historical account of their oppression, it shows that Israel is greatly impoverished because of them. Israel is in need, and they cry out to the Lord. So that's the center of it. The center of it is that Israel cries out to the Lord because of their need. And then, because of their need, when they lift up their voice to the Lord responds with the historical. So as you're coming back out of it, as you're coming in, you have the sin, there's a historical account of the oppression, and then them crying unto the Lord. And as you're coming back out, when they cry unto the Lord, he brings a historical account of what happened in the past with the Egyptians. He brings that all in, and he tells them at the ending point, ye have not obeyed my voice. So at the center of all of it is Israel. God's saying, don't focus on me. Don't focus on what I am not doing for you. You have sinned against me, and when you're crying out to me, I want you to realize that this is not because of anything that I have done. It's because of what you have done. So what we can see from this passage is that disobedience to God will move God's hand of judgment. And I know it sounds similar to some of the other ones, but once again, God is reminding them. And I don't think God had this put in the Bible in this spot as a redundant fact. It's a reminder, something that we need to be reminded of every single day. Disobedience to God will move the hand of God's judgment, God's hand of judgment. So an interesting thing about this passage is this is a complete turning point for the rest of the book of Judges, in that from this point on, there are victories that are won by judges. But from this point on, in the book of Judges, the judges display the same characteristics as the children of Israel, in that there are none, close to no, positive characteristics displayed from the rest of the judges in the book. They win victories for the Lord, but all of them fail miserably at the end of their judgeship. And it's a from this point on, I hate to say it this way, but from this point on, there's pretty much, in the rest of the book of Judges, there's pretty much no cheerful disposition about what happens. There's no overwhelmingly awesome victories. There are victories that God gets, and God does still deliver His people. But as far as the judges and the children of Israel are concerned, this vicious cycle continues to spiral downward and get even worse and worse and worse until you get to the end of the book, where we're going to see the judges are just crazy. They're just absolutely, it's weird to see that somebody at the end of the book of Judges could be so removed. They're called by God for a purpose, but they have nothing really to do with God at all. So as we move into these stories about Gideon and everything, some of the facts that popped up in this passage are very important to understanding the story of Gideon that we will get into next week. But what we can see is disobedience to God will move God's hand of judgment. And how does that happen? How does that work with us? Now I was struggling with this one this week a lot of like, man, it seems redundant. It seems like something that I've already preached out of the book of Judges. It feels like something that has been said before multiple times in the book of Judges. Like, what is there that's different here? Well, the difference here is the fact that God isn't calling to remembrance anymore something that's happened way back in the past that their ancestors have known about. He's talking about something that was very recent in the victory over Sisera. He's like, 40 years ago, you had 40 years of peace because of the victory that I wrought you. And you cry out. He's bringing them to the point to where he wants them to realize you continue this cycle over and over again. And I'm telling you, once again, you've sinned against me. You have not obeyed my voice. And he's trying desperately to tell them. And what I got out of it this week is that there have been so many times in my life where God has told me over and over again that something was wrong, and yet I continue to do it. And I know we've covered that in other sermons. But seeing that the rest of the book of Judges, there is a removal of God giving any more warnings or declarations to His people from a prophet. There's a removal of that, and this starts the total removal of God in this passage. Seeing that, we can see that God will only warn us so many times before He completely takes His hand off of our lives. He'll only warn us so many times, and then He has to bring down His judgment. And what God is saying here is that, listen,
you've disobeyed me over and over and over again. And I've even given you victories in your recent history, fresh victories. I'm not talking about before. It's the idea here would be as if someone who is struggling with a drug addiction, and they're struggling. They go back to it over and over again. They try and get out of it, and they go right back to it over again. They're going back and forth and back and forth. They finally get a victory. They get, say it's 5 years, total without any drugs at all. And then they just decide one day that it's too hard to resist it anymore. They just give in, and they fall right back into it. And they fall right back into a life of poverty. It's the idea of God saying, I want to help you. I brought you out of that bondage. I want to give you a prosperous life. I want to do these things for you. But you keep running back to your sin over and over and over again. And it's never ending. And at this point in Judges, at this specific point in Judges, after this point, God does not speak to his children anymore directly through a prophet or by the angel of the Lord. He speaks to the judges, but no longer does he address the children of Israel, and he begins to take his hand off of Israel and leave them in their sin. So for us, man, it's going to get preached. There's no way around it. If you know Judges at all, it's going to get preached. But there are sins that we don't like to admit that we continually have. And sins we've gone over before in the book of Judges, such as with Barak, with the disbelief, with Ehud, where he was doing what God wanted, but in his own way, and in a sneaky way, and in a suspicious way. And there's sins like that, and then there are sins that we don't like to address. There's sins that we don't like to admit that anyone in our midst would have. But there was a man back at my home church, and there was years upon years where I looked up to him and many other kids. He was involved in all our children's ministries and all these other things, and we looked up to him greatly. And he was a really awesome man. And what nobody knew and what nobody could know was that he was struggling and battling some pretty heavy sins at home. And he never really outwardly showed, but he knew it was struggling. It was tearing inside of him his whole life. It was tearing him up from the inside out. And he ended up moving away from our church, and it was sins of doubt, of inadequacy, and sins of just really honestly a faithlessness in what God could do in his life. And he was an awesome man. He was my game leader when I was in the Sparks program when I was growing up. And I hate to use him as an illustration like this, but those sins continued to ravish his life and continued to hurt him as he moved away. And the end result of what ended up happening was a month ago, actually, this man ended up taking his life because he didn't deal with the sin that was in his life when he could have. It continued to ravish him throughout his whole life. And this man that so many young kids like myself looked up to ended up completely ravished with a life where he felt like it wasn't even worth it to continue living. And it's because he continued to let that sin go undealt with. And it's the thing that I hate to admit is that it plagues many of us every single day. In my own life, I know of, it's always hardest to admit your own faults and failures, but in my own life, I struggle with many times with inadequacy. Over the summer when I traveled with Glorybound, I was looked to as one of the leaders, but in the same time, I didn't feel like I should be there. I didn't feel like I was worthy of the ability that God had given me to travel with Glory Bound. And I really struggled hard the whole summer with inadequacy. I fought it over and over again. I was like, Lord, I don't even know why you have me on this group. I feel like I'm not really contributing in the musicality of anything. I feel like I'm not really contributing a whole lot. And I was starting to feel really inadequate. And my whole life, I really have struggled with inadequacy. And part of that is a lack of faith in what God can do in my life. And part of what plagues so many Christians is that we don't step out in faith. We don't step out, as it says at the end of Judges 5, we don't rise as the sun when it riseth in the morning. We don't rise next to God knowing that the God of all heaven, the God of all power, will empower us and embolden us to do what we need to do with Him if we'll just have faith that He will do it in our lives. And we shrink back from that. And we shrink back from our responsibilities because we have a lack of faith. And in all honesty, a lack of faith and a lack of confidence in what God can do in your life is a sin that can ruin your life. It can ruin your life. It wasn't until over the summer with Glory Bound, it wasn't until our leader, the leader of all the groups, Brother Aaron Mast, came in and he prayed with me. And we honestly cried together. And I was crying over how I didn't feel adequate. And he cried over me and said, Nick, in all honesty, the whole reason that you're having a problem with this is because it's not you. It's not you. It's all about what God can do through you. And that sin of inadequacy, we don't like to call it a sin because it's down on us. It's hard to explain because we feel like, woe is me, like feel bad for me because of that. But in all honesty, the inadequacy and feeling inadequate is a sin in that you're not trusting God to do in you or to empower you to do what He wants you to do. And I can go on, and for sake of time, I'm not going to go on, but I could go on with sin after sin after sin that we don't like to say is a sin, and we don't like to admit that it's a sin, like the simple one of not reading your Bible. If I'm honest with you, I struggle with that more than I like to admit. I struggle with getting up in the morning. My wife knows more than anybody else. I have a hard time getting up in the morning. And if you don't get to it right away in the morning, it's very hard in the middle of a busy day and with all the different stresses that life stacks up on top of you. It's very hard to get back in this book, especially if you're in work and you decide, I kind of want to for my lunch just sit and rest and eat, just relax for a second. But then at the same time, you know that you didn't get in the Word that morning, and you know you don't have the strength that you need to continue to conquer temptation throughout the day. And along with that, just as Pastor's been talking about on Wednesday nights, prayer. How often do we pray to God? The Bible says pray without ceasing, but beyond that, how often do we go a whole week without even praying 10 minutes to God? And in that, I would even include our prayers at dinner times. Dear Lord, bless Lord, bless the food. Like, how often do we go a whole week without even praying 10 minutes to God? That in itself is a sin. And it seems little. And it seems like something small. But as we saw at the very first message that we preached at Judges, it wasn't like the children of Israel directly went to whole and total idolatry. It started with them doing things the way that they wanted to do. If you remember, when Judah went up and God said, I've delivered the land into Judah's hand, and Judah turned to his brother and said unto Simeon his brother, come up with me into my lot that we may fight against the Canaanites. It wasn't total idolatry to start with, but slowly over the book of Judges, as we're seeing, and as we get to this major shift, slowly we're seeing that it's one little sin, and then it moves to another little sin, and then it moves to another little sin, and it just keeps piling its way down the list until you get to the point to where Israel is at in this passage, and God says, you know what? I've told you what to do. I've even given you victories over these people, and you still have not obeyed my voice. And at this point in Judges, God begins to pull his hand off of them in their lives. Am I saying that not reading your Bible every day is going to lead God to completely pull his hand off of your life? No, but it could lead to that. It could lead to the point to where this little sin of not reading your Bible and not praying causes you to not have faith in the Lord, and it just slowly pulls you away from God. Disobedience to God will move God's hand of judgment. God will begin to bring down judgment upon them. And God reminds, just as God reminded the children of Israel here, is something that I want to remind us of tonight, is that all of this wasn't God's fault. None of this was God's fault. The whole reason that he brought Midian against the children of Israel was because they had sinned greatly against him. Like he warned them he would do. He gave them a specific warning. And what God's telling us, and what I believe out of this passage, is God saying, listen, I've told you what you need to know. God's given us a handbook for all of life in the Bible. Every single answer to every single problem is in this book. God said, I've told you what to do. And if you're living in sin today, God's very plainly saying to you from the passage, if you're not obeying my voice, the judgment is of your own making. It's not my fault. God is a holy and perfect and righteous God. God says to them, it's not my fault. This is your doing. You did this to yourselves. And that's what God's saying to us tonight. If we have unconfessed or sins that just seem to keep plaguing us over and over again, God can give you victory over that. He really honestly can. And the fact that I'm standing in front of you tonight is proof of that. If God didn't do that, if God didn't give us victory over sins in our lives, I would not be here. I guarantee it. I guarantee it. If God wasn't faithful to do that every time. And so the warning is what the rest of the book of Judges is going to talk about. The warning is that if we continue in our sin and continue in our sin, it's going to get to the point that God says, all right, we've talked about it before. You want to live in your sin? Okay. And then God slowly begins to remove his hand from your life. So the call tonight is simple. And I know we've preached over it before, but especially with the Lord's Supper coming up and with the fact that we're about to do it, I think tonight is a good night to remind us to search our hearts to see if there's any sin that we don't see. If there's any sin that we don't see. And if there's sins that we do see, deal with it on the spot. There's no reason to let it keep plaguing you over and over again. But especially with what Pastor went over this morning in Sunday school over the Lord's Supper and making sure that we have a right attitude and a right heart before God in taking the Lord's Supper. As we get into the Easter season and we begin to think about what Jesus did for us on the cross, really begin to examine yourselves and say, Lord, in what ways am I disobeying you? In what ways am I going against your commandments? In what ways am I going against your word? And if you find something, deal with it. On the spot, deal with it. There are so many times where I've been confronted with this exact truth in my life as a teenager, and I didn't deal with it, and it led to a horrible, dark time that I've told you all about in my past. And it gets worse and worse and worse. What happens from this point in the book of Judges on is literally exactly that. Is it only gets worse from here. It really, honestly, there's no more bright spots. It only gets worse from here. And it's the same thing in our lives. If we don't deal with our sin, it'll only get worse from here. It does not get better until you confess your sin. So with that, I'm going to pray, and then we'll have an invitation, and we'll let you respond to the word tonight. Dear Lord, thank you for this night, and just thank you for your truth. And Lord, it may sound redundant, but it's something that us as humans being forgetful and being foolish as we are, we forget it often, Lord, that if we disobey your commandments and disobey your word, that you will bring judgment down upon us. And Lord, I just pray that tonight, if there is anyone, including myself, Lord, that has any sin in our hearts, that you would allow us to search our hearts and find that sin and unearth it and deal with it, Lord. And Lord, we want to be right with you. We want to be a people that's right with you, but we don't want to be like the children of Israel, habitually sinning against you over and over again, Lord. So I pray that you'd be with us tonight. If there's any that needs sin to be dealt with, that you would be with us tonight and help us to deal with that. In Jesus' name, amen. I'll give you a moment to respond. Dear Lord, as we go out tonight and go out into the world, Lord, I pray that we carry that truth with us, that, Lord, being right with you is one of the most joyous things on earth. It really is, Lord, and I just pray that as we go about this week, we'd remember, Lord, that if there are any unconfessed sins in our lives, that we just need to deal with it and get it done with. And Lord, I just pray that you'd be with us this week and help us as we go about into our work places, Lord, and just keep us safe as we go home tonight. In Jesus' name, amen.